Breaking news tonight out of Washington, D.C. Congress votes to approve a short-term spending bill avoiding a government shutdown. The winter weather continues with more snow on the way when we can expect to see up to 3 inches or more. The Legislative Black Caucus announces their priorities this session, why they say they don't want to see changes, though, to the current juvenile justice system.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Breaking news tonight out of Washington. Congress votes to avoid a shutdown and keep the government funded through early March. The House just approved that short-term spending bill to prevent a partial government shutdown and fund federal agencies until March. The bill overwhelmingly passed the Senate earlier today. The vote passed 314 to 108 in the House, with opposition coming largely from more conservative House Republicans. Despite this, about half of the Republicans joined with Democrats to pass the third stopgap funding measure in recent months. The bill now heads to President Biden's desk for his signature. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. We could see up to 3 inches of snow by tomorrow after a break from the snowfall over the past couple of days. Meteorologist Wyatt Everhart tracking the winter weather that is headed our way.
Yeah, Mary, here we go again, right? It's, maybe not quite the impact of the event we had earlier this week. I mean, we really saw enhanced snow totals out of that storm, but still enough snow to create problems on the road for a work day Friday and a school day, potential school day at least Friday. Winter storm advisory is up for all of central Maryland throughout the day Friday, right into Friday night and even the first thing 1 a.m. Saturday morning. We got the leading edge of some cloud cover already coming into Maryland, but the main system itself still winding itself up over the central part of the country and the Midwest. It will be diving into Maryland as it gets itself better organized into the day on Friday, bringing with it several inches of snow. And keep in mind, as this system starts, it will be coming in the overnight hours into the early morning sunrise time frame, meaning our coldest temperatures, meaning this will stick on contact to any untreated surface. So that's why we say slick areas, slick sidewalks and roads, they're all going to be a concern with this system. Much more on the storm itself and what happens behind it on Ravens game day Saturday coming up.
Wyatt, thanks. Well, Carroll, Harford County schools already have canceled classes for tomorrow. Cecil County students will have a virtual learning day. Howard County schools will be dismissing 3 hours early. Stay with us on air and at foxbaltimore.com as we continue to monitor any new closings or delays. And wake up tomorrow morning with our Fox 45 weather team as they continue to track the overnight snow and freezing temperatures. Meteorologist Amy Aronson will have your full forecast starting at 4:30 a.m. And anytime snow hits, you can have up-to-the-minute forecasts right at your fingertips. Download the Fox 45 Weather Authority app to search WBFF in your app store. The Legislative Black Caucus is rolling out its priorities for this session. Lawmakers are looking at education, healthcare, transportation, and public safety. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost was at the State House today. She has more on what caucus members hope to achieve.
There are several different areas of focus for the Legislative Black Caucus this session, but one thing is clear. The group says it is not interested in making any changes to the current juvenile justice laws. The first full week of session
1, 2, 3, 4. Mic check. 1, 2.
Filled with priority announcements.
We're going to go ahead and get started.
Thursday morning, the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland out with their list. Expanding transportation services, health screenings, and housing access, boosting black business opportunities, preserving historically black college and university programs, and criminal justice policies, like creating a correctional ombudsman within the state's attorney general's office.
Will provide eyes and ears behind the walls.
Expanding expungement opportunities.
For far too long, we haven't allowed a sentence to be a sentence.
And unlike others pushing for juvenile justice changes,
this Black Caucus will protect our recent policies and laws related to the juvenile justice.
Right now, Maryland's juvenile justice laws are in the spotlight, like the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, preventing kids 13 and younger from facing certain misdemeanor charges, and the Juvenile Interrogation Act, requiring law enforcement to get permission from an attorney to question juveniles in custody, even if the parent agrees.
Does the caucus, does it support making changes to the Juvenile Interrogation Act?
The Legislative Black Caucus last year in the Maryland General Assembly passed really important foundational legislation to make sure that children in our communities are not interrogated without their constitutional rights of being able to ensure that they have access to an attorney.
Chair Janelle Wilkins, a Democrat from Montgomery County, adamant that her caucus does not want to see changes made.
I know that there's a proposal out there that would require a defense attorney to be in person during questioning of a minor as perhaps a compromise to some of the other pushes to make changes to the legislation. Would you support that?
In terms of that legislation, I appreciate you raising specific bills, but that's not on our Black Caucus agenda, which is what we are here discussing today.
That proposal brought forward by state's attorneys Ivan Bates of Baltimore City and Aisha Braveboy of Prince George's County. The two top prosecutors argue investigations are hindered by the limited opportunities to question young people, and having an attorney in person could help.
We'll take a look at every bill as it comes. Thank you.
Baltimore City Democrat Senator Jill Carter quick to throw cold water on that idea.
I don't really see where it makes any sense.
Another Bates Braveboy priority, taking the guessing out of the Department of Juvenile Services intake process, instead requiring young offenders to see a judge right away for certain charges to determine if the case will move forward.
Should all of these decisions go to the prosecutor? My answer is no. I think the department is equipped to make certain decisions about whether someone should be charged or informally adjusted.
Even if the intake officer isn't necessarily an attorney?
I think we need to look at the qualifications and the process that's used. I think that we need to be clear that there is a trusted process in place. But if there is, I think that there's no reason that every single case be forwarded to the state's attorney.
Is that process adequate right now?
I don't know.
DJS already making changes to the intake process, at least in Baltimore City, where the former director was replaced following outcry from lawmakers after two young assault suspects were released from custody. But critics of the current system, like the state's attorney from Montgomery County,
is youth crime down? Not by any measure of anybody who's paying attention.
Argues there needs to be changes made to help drive down juvenile crime numbers this session.
One area where it does seem like there is growing support is ensuring the funding that is already going to DJS is being spent on programs that are seeing results. Now, whether that comes in the form of legislation or DJS policy is a question that has yet to be answered. In the State House, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
In the race for Maryland's open U.S. Senate seat, one Republican candidate is calling public safety his top priority. Retired Air Force General John Teichert is launching a law enforcement coalition made up of sheriffs from across the state. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on who's involved and what political experts are saying about the endorsement.
Yeah, today, Teichert securing the support of 4 county sheriffs with a promise to push tough on crime priorities in D.C. Political analyst John Dede says it's a promise that he has heard Maryland voters calling for, but he questions whether it will be enough to win over a historically Democratic state.
I wanted them to know that I trusted them, that I appreciated them, and that ultimately I fully supported them.
A group of Maryland sheriffs from Talbot, Worcester, Wicomico, and Dorchester County banding together to back John Teichert for U.S. Senate, as Teichert mutually pledges to back the blue.
Unfortunately, here in Maryland and in many places around our country, our politicians, including my opponents, are saying just the opposite. And as a result, we see these pro-criminal policies that ultimately degrade law and order in our communities.
Pointing specifically to the state's controversial juvenile justice reform laws.
It has increased the juvenile crime rate. It has emboldened juveniles. And we need leadership.
Wicomico County Sheriff Mike Lewis says electing a candidate who understands the current challenges facing local law enforcement is critical. And as a retired Air Force general, Lewis believes Teichert's military background makes him the best man for the job.
General Teichert epitomizes leadership. He's been on the front line.
This year's Maryland General Assembly issue, that's the number one thing they're talking about, that they want to deal with that problem quickly.
According to political analyst John Dede, a promise to prioritize public safety will resonate with voters. However,
the problem is this is a national election for the United States Senate, and we are a polarized country politically in Washington. Electing him to the Senate makes Mitch McConnell the majority leader. Also, Maryland is a strong Democratic state.
Among the candidates running for the Democratic nomination, Teicher also facing some stiff competition between Representative David Trone and Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks.
David Trone will be able to, if he's the nominee, will be able to spend him to death. If it's Angela Alsobrooks, she's got the political establishment behind her.
Didi calling the chances of any Republican winning this election an uphill battle.
They have the demographics against them. The last time a Republican was elected to the United States Senate from Maryland was in 1980.
But Teicher remaining confident in his belief Maryland voters are hungry for change.
They are understanding that conservatives have the message that they need to make their lives and communities better, and it can only be brought about by leaders, not by politicians.
Ultimately, time will tell what voters decide. Maryland's primary election is scheduled for May 14th and the general election November 5th. In the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Story in Baltimore County, where the principal of Pikesville High School was allegedly recorded making racially charged comments. The school system says it's investigating the recording, which includes derogatory remarks about students and staff. But the principal's union is asking for a pause to any rush in judgment.
I seriously don't understand why I have to constantly put up with these dumb here every day. Between these ungrateful black kids who can't test their way out of a paper bag.
Well, the voice in that recording is allegedly Pikesville principal Eric Eiswert, seen here on the school's website. The 41-second clip includes derogatory comments, as you heard, about black students and some school staffers, as well as members of the Jewish community. In an email to parents Wednesday afternoon, Baltimore County School Superintendent Dr. Miriam Rogers called the statements deeply disturbing, but said that they cannot confirm the veracity of the recording. And the school system investigates. The principal's union is promising full cooperation. Now, in a statement to Project Baltimore, union leader Billy Burke writes, the outrageous language in the audio is not the language, thoughts, or character of Principal Eiswert. It goes on to say, we ask that there be a pause in any rush to judgment and that we act respectively to his family, staff, and each other. The statement does not address previous reports indicating union leadership thought the recording may have been faked using artificial intelligence. And Fox 45 will stay on this story as the investigation continues to evaluate the authenticity of that recording.
Republicans on Capitol Hill giving their final arguments in their impeachment case against the Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm Christine Frizzell with What's Next.
On Capitol Hill today, GOP lawmakers continue their case against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. They claim he violated his oath, broke the law, and deserves to be impeached. Democrats call the effort political, but it is unfolding amid one of the biggest border crises in American history. Christine Frizzell live for us on Capitol Hill tonight. And Christine, every day it seems like we are hearing about another way this surge at the border is impacting our country.
That's exactly right, Mary. From city budgets to overwhelmed schools and hospitals, and of course, the U.S. Border Patrol. And this is not just every state in the country, but really every layer of government that is now being called on to respond.
Winter means those already sleeping on the streets in subpar conditions now have to fear for their lives.
It's too cold. I believe we won't survive another night with these cold temperatures.
As some migrants wait on a bridge in Texas, others await their next steps in big cities they've traveled to by bus. New York City Councilwoman Ina Vernikoff posting this video of migrants arriving at a high school in New York City. The Denver Gazette reporting on the difficult dilemma at its hospital, Denver Health. A surge in new immigrant patients from South and Central America, equating to 8,000 people and 20,000 visits, costing $10 million in additional uncompensated care in the last year. Taxpayers left to foot the bill, there and elsewhere. And in largely Democratic California, voters asked if U.S. borders are secure in preventing people from entering the country illegally, overwhelmingly said not secure, 62%.
Move to the side.
City by city, town by town, all roads lead to Washington, where lawmakers continue to work on solutions. 14 Democrats this week joining Republicans to denounce President Biden's, quote, open border policies, as GOP lawmakers press ahead with their impeachment case against the man in charge, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
As a result of the reckless actions by Secretary Mayorkas, no American is safe.
I believe he's violated his oath.
Democrats argue there's no legal basis for impeachment.
This isn't a real impeachment. It's a predetermined, pre-planned, partisan political stunt.
Hearing was the second of two on the matter, with the committee vote on whether to impeach Secretary Mayorkas scheduled for January 31st, likely to be followed by a vote in the full House sometime next month. Mary?
And Christine, I know Republicans have complained that Secretary Mayorkas did not heed their calls to testify before the committee trying to impeach him. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, they were highly critical of him, but Secretary Mayorkas insists it was a scheduling conflict in terms of why he didn't come. He said he would be willing to do so at a later date. Now, he has already testified before Congress 27 times, more than any other Biden cabinet official. As legal scholars insist that the House doesn't have a legal basis to impeach him, there's a good chance they may have the votes to do so anyway.
All right, we will be watching. Christine Frizzell live for us in D.C. tonight. Thank you.
All right, weather-wise, we continue to watch the clouds build in across Maryland as our next wintry weather maker is set to arrive still as we go into early Friday and throughout the day to end the week. So it's still winding up, still getting its act together here in the upper Midwest. In the meantime, just clouds and cold conditions across Maryland. Still a snowpack on the ground. Beautiful shot. M&T Bank Stadium tonight, gearing up for the huge game on Saturday. It's going to feel a little bit more like Green Bay out there than a classic Ravens game. But hey, we know that Houston's not going to be too comfortable out there with those wind chills in the single digits and teens, right? 33 right now. BWI wind is calm, and overall we have winter weather advisory set up for the entire central part of the state, the entire Baltimore and D.C. region. This is going to run right through the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. Most of the snow likely arriving in the early part of the day on Friday, and in fact early in the morning as these temperatures continue to fall from the 30s into the 20s overnight. That means all snow as it arrives in the state is going to stick on contact to the existing snow, the ice out there, yes, even all the untreated sidewalks and secondary roads that haven't been resalted yet. We're looking for slick conditions. That's the main issue. This is a workday Friday typically, and typically a school day as well, and it's going to be slick and snowy. Blustery conditions behind this storm on Saturday, then a significant warm-up in the next week. If you're headed to the Ravens game, I mean, we're talking all the layers, okay? Have everything that you have on that will keep you warm throughout that game, because we're talking talking about temps falling from the mid-20s to low 20s. And with the wind, we're talking about real field temperatures down to lower teens. That is cold for Maryland football. All right. So as we look at the overall big picture with this system, again, it's still kind of building. The main moisture with the system still well off to the west. The cloud cover from the system is edging into the state. The snow right now is elevated, not touching the ground, but that will change as we get more moisture coming in toward 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Expecting light snow to ramp up a little bit into the mid-morning hours of Friday. And then the backside of the system will begin to clear out of here as we go into Friday afternoon with snow showers, but still very slick conditions out there as we once again have to salt and clear everything out. Talking about 2 to 4 inch totals broadly across the Baltimore area, but a little more toward PA, a little less toward Annapolis, D.C. We'll talk much more about that 10-day forecast in just a few minutes.
A controversial Texas law struck down by the courts. Why they say forcing sellers to rate books based on sexual content is unconstitutional. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals is striking down a Texas law that would have required booksellers to rate their books based on sexual content before they could do business with schools. In tonight's Assignment America, Andrew Freeman from our Sinclair sister station in Austin has the community's reaction.
I just love getting lost in it. I love learning things. I'm kind of an information sponge.
Joseph Dulock visited Book People Wednesday to find another volume for the collection.
I buy a lot of books. My room is basically a library.
Customers like Deb Seaman are passionate about their local bookseller.
This is the best bookstore I have ever encountered, and I'm from New York.
Which joined many other Texas book vendors in a lawsuit to block House Bill 900, also known as the Readers Act. It would have forced them to rate each of their books based on the presence of sexual depictions or references before being able to do business with schools.
Booksellers can't be compelled to speak against their will.
And that's what the state would be requiring under the book rating system.
Lord Prather is with Haynes and Boone, which represented book people and the other plaintiffs in the lawsuit.
We are pleased that the Fifth Circuit recognized that this book rating system would irreparably harm booksellers across the state of Texas.
House Bill 900 was authored by Texas State Representative Jared Patterson, who says he's disappointed by the court's decision. In a statement released on the social media platform X, he says in part, book vendors have an obligation to be aware of the content they are distributing, especially if that content is sexually explicit material in the hands of school children. But Prather says they estimate such a bill would have cost Texas bookstores anywhere from $4 million to $500 million.
It recognizes the crippling economic impact that this would have on independent business owners who are incredibly involved in their community.
Places like book people.
You don't want to buy the books. School districts don't want to buy the books. Leave them out of it. I'm glad it got struck down.
While others like Duloc see this as a win in the fight against book censorship.
As soon as you start telling people what you can read and what you can't read, you've gone too far.
All right, let's get to that 10-day forecast check. Obviously, we're anticipating that snowy scenario throughout your Friday. Slick conditions, cold, blustery for Ravens game day Saturday. And we start to brighten things up Sunday as the winds calm down, and then the temperatures begin to really moderate from the 40s ultimately into the low 50s as we go toward the middle part of next week. So what a wild swing, what a wild change in the weather pattern as we go from the early part of the week into the latter part of the week. But hey, that's Maryland weather for you.
I was going to say, call it Baltimore. And finally, tonight, we're taking you live to the Ravens playoff push rally. The flock is showing up for their support of the team ahead of the Ravens' first playoff game this Saturday. This is Mother's North Grill in Timonium, one of 4 playoff rallies being held tonight. Fans are getting ready to watch the Ravens' live broadcast of the Lounge podcast in just a few minutes. Nice turnout there. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's up next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching, and go Ravens.